Okay, let's take a step back and let's look at this, right? So Sydney, the most expensive capital city in Australia, right?
Yep.
Median house prices close to $2 million. You've got a physician, doctor earning $500,000. What does that look like? Are they in a really good position to save? Have they got enough cash flow to sustain, say, for instance, private schooling? Or even more importantly, how much should they actually be saving on an annual level to ensure that money is actually invested well?
Yeah, no, really, really good question. I think that what comes to most people is the surprise on how much tax you actually pay at $500,000 of gross income.
Yep.
It's close to 41%.
Wow.
Okay, now I want to break that down because a lot of people think, wait, I thought we're on a 47% tax bracket. So I wanted to actually break that down for people because we do have different tax brackets in Australia. So the first $45,000 that you earn, you're not paying that much tax at all. You're paying roughly 9.5%. Okay. That's your average tax rate, right? So again, first 18,200, there's no tax paid on that income. The next 18,200 to 45K, paying about 16 cents on every dollar above 18,200. Now, let's just break it down a little bit further down. Again, there's two other brackets. So the next bracket's at 45 to 135. Again, it's 9.5% tax, average tax bracket. But then it quickly jumps from, if you're earning $135,000 or more, between 135 to 190, you're now paying 37% tax on every dollar earned between that. So that gives you an average tax rate of close to 23%. Okay. Now, when you get to over 190,000, this is when you're on the highest marginal tax rate, right? So the tax rate's actually 45%, and then you pay an extra 2% for Medicare levy. So that's when you hear 47% tax bracket. You're earning above 190,000. But your average tax rate is only 27.
Yep.
Okay. So there's that misconception that you're on you're paying 47% tax. No, you've only paid 47% on every dollar above 190K. Okay. So again, let's just break this down to the next two, say 350K, you're on 37%.
Yep.
So when you're on 500, your average tax bracket's about the 40 to 41% tax rate. So what does that mean? You're earning a gross income of 500,000 means $205,000 is already gone to tax.
Yep.
Nothing you can do about that. You should be, managing it that way, right? Where 40% is automatically assumed should be going to tax. Now, a lot of practitioners, again, during this time, they've started to do a bit of private practice or a little bit of locum work, or they're now, switching from a staff specialist PAYG to VMO work.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, they're now completely responsible for paying their own tax. The worst thing they can do is not have that money set aside in reserves, and they end up spending it. And that's what I meant by this perpetual tax debt, is they get to the end of the year and realize, hey, I've earned $500,000, fantastic. Now I've got a $200,000 tax bill. I've spent it.
Yep.
Where do I get it from?
Yeah.
Now, there's solutions to that, but we want to avoid being in that trap to begin with in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. And so kind of touching on the point in terms of, is there a set parameter or figure in terms of a percentage that, they should be aiming towards in terms of setting some money aside for, I guess, wealth creation?
Yeah, really good question. Look, there's a 10%, 20% rule of thumb, but I think let's break down the reality, right? Again, let's assume, single doctor, $500,000 of income, after 205K goes towards tax, your net income's 295K. Now, let's assume you've got a $2 million loan. I mean, a house in Sydney, you would be...
A half-decent area, you're looking at $3-4 million.
Absolutely, right? So again, $2 million loan, your repayments on that's about $16,000 a month.
Yep.
There's a 200, it's already gone. You've got $100,000 left. One kid in school fees, or that's your lifestyle. Is that $100,000? So if you can save within that $100,000, then fantastic. And again, look, you might say, hey, we might have two doctors in the family. We've got a dual income, and this is where lifestyle creep and that catches up with you, because your property as well is going to be $78 million at that point in time. So your expenses have just absolutely caught up with the income that you're earning.
Yeah.
And so again, I think it just comes back to having a discipline. But what's going to drive that discipline, Felix, really comes back to a goal, right? And I find, I mean, you're in the property space. I find having tangible bricks and mortar assets and wanting to buy an asset and buying a house or buying a property or investment, having that goal in mind really sets the tone for you now to be disciplined in how you manage your cash flow. Because you've got goals, you can put your money into buckets, knowing that I'm going to achieve this in this set amount of time that we've set for ourselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that having a property goal is a big one. How do you kind of talk to clients in that space?
Yeah, good question. I always think about it like this, right? I mean, medical professionals earn really well, but for how long? All right. And what have they got? Their main assets, obviously, their earning capacity right now. But in 10, 15, 20 years' time, what's actually working for them? And I had a client ages ago that I met, and he was an anaesthetist, and his earning capacity is really great, right? And in terms of his property portfolio, he was buying a lot of one-bedroom apartments off the plan for tax deductions. Great for cash flow as well, but no growth. And I asked him, what was his strategy? And his strategy was, I earn really well right now. I'll pay him off as quickly as possible. I said, what happens if you're in a position where you can't pay that off and you're not earning that capacity anymore? Are those assets going to be sustainable, but are they going to have the growth factors in them to sustain what you're looking for retirement? And he goes, I've never thought that far. Right? Yeah. And so we actually then took a step back and we actually bought him a property where he paid $800,000 for before 3 months before it was completed. And then when it was completed, it was worth about probably $1 million.
Right.
So he said to me, I've made more in this one property that you've purchased me than the other 6 that I've had off the plan. And so my point kind of going back to that is kind of, these guys might earn well right now, but how have they planned for the future when they're no longer earning that level of income that they're on right now? And that's a really good point that you mentioned, putting into assets that are working for you whilst you're sleeping.